What's up, everybody? Today I'm making another Helldivers 2 tier list. Today we're going to be ranking all of the stratagems. Before we get into it though, I just want to say thanks for watching. If you could please subscribe, that would be really awesome, and I appreciate you. Alright, let's get into this. Alright, so here's our tiers here. We have S tier, it's going to be super destruction. We have A tier, which is going to be annihilation. And then we have B tier, which is going to be big impact. And then our F tier, our treason tier, our worst tier is going to be pitiful display. Let's get right into it. All right, starting off, the flamethrower sentry. This guy I got to put in pitiful display. Starting off strong. I think the reason why the flamethrower sentry is in pitiful display is the range isn't very long. You have to really babysit it because the fact that it is a fire damage weapon, a lot of enemies will get hit by it but still be able to make it to it to at least hit it and do damage to it, and it'll die very quickly if a bunch of small enemies run into it. It is really cool to use though, to see everything get torched. I just think that the amount of time you have to dedicate to babysitting it and the low range and yada yada yada, I think it's just not that great. All right, the EMS mortar. I think this is B tier. I think it's fine. It puts out a lot of control on the field. It shoots mortars that basically puts a static field that stuns enemies and does not let them move anymore. So it's pretty useful in that aspect. It doesn't do any damage, so you definitely have to babysit it, but at least it has a large impact on what's going on in the battlefield. All right, the anti-material rifle. This is S tier. This is a really good weapon. Comes with tons of ammo, good for killing every unit, heavy units. Solid to use, and it's like a badass sniper. What more needs to be said? Minefield. Anti-personnel minefield, actually. B tier. Solid. Kills little guys. Does damage medium guys. But it will mostly just kill your teammates. So for that, B tier. Arc thrower. I think the arc thrower is going to have to go into B tier. I think the arc thrower is really solid. I think the only thing holding it back is its time to kill is pretty slow on heavy units, and in the higher mission difficulties, you don't really have time to be mucking around trying to kill these heavy units. It is solid at killing small groups though, but it's also solid at killing your teammates too if you're not paying attention, you have poor trigger discipline. But so for that, I'm just going to keep it in B tier. The autocannon sentry, this is S tier. A really good, it's probably one of the best sentries they have. Good about doing it with every foe in the game. Solid sentry, can handle its own, will protect itself. Yeah, pretty good. Followed up by the autocannon. Another, I think this has got to be S tier. It's a very solid backpack weapon. Really good pretty much in every scenario against every evil alien race they have that's out there. Yeah, it's a solid choice. I think you could take it with you anywhere, and it's easy to use. S tier. Ballistic shield. The ballistic shield is cool, and I think the cool factor carries it a lot here. The fact that they changed it where it can now absorb melee weapons, you can make a really cool hack and slash shield and melee weapon build. But other than that, for a backpack weapon, there's better options, so we'll just leave it at B tier. The Commando. The Commando is a 4-shot rocket launcher with laser guidance, and it's single use. It does not require a backpack. I think the Commando is S tier. It has a short cooldown for call-in, and it's just solid for taking out heavy units. The only thing it kind of lacks is it doesn't have as much damage as some of the other rocket weapons, but it makes up a lot for that for its laser guidance system and the fact that it doesn't require a backpack. Rocket pods. Eagle rocket pods. I'm going to have to put this one in B tier. The rocket pods is decent, but I see no one usually take it, and then when I have seen it being used, it misses. It's a very weird thing. I think it should be kind of like better laser guided than it is. It kind of just in a small area will hit the heaviest unit in the area, but sometimes it doesn't kill that unit, so I'm not sure I understand really the point of it. So for that, I think I'm just gonna throw it in B tier to be safe. I don't think it's horrible, but I also don't think it's amazing. Follow that up with the 500k. This is S tier. If you don't use this thing, you should definitely try it out. This thing is amazing. It has one of the best graphical displays you can see. It lights the whole area up. I don't know what else to say. 500k, S tier. Eagle Airstrike. I'm going to put another, this is another S tier. Eagle Airstrike, decent. Kills heavy units, tanks, anything you need. It's solid to use pretty close to you too. It doesn't have like a big explosive radius, and you come with a decent amount of them. So for that, I think Eagle Airstrike's one of the most solid ones you can pick, and it's gonna go S tier. Eagle Cluster Bomb. We're gonna put this in A tier. Only reason we put it in A tier is because it doesn't do damage to heavy units. And it has such a huge radius that a lot of your teammates will go running in thinking they're safe and they'll get annihilated. So for that, I think Annihilation is the A tier, I think is perfect for it. Eagle Napalm, I think that's another A tier. It's basically as good as the Airstrike, except for it leaves behind fire. And with that fire, enemies will just run through it like dumbasses they are and get melted by the napalm. So Eagle Napalm, sorry, it's called Eagle Napalm. Definitely A tier. All right, Eagle Smokescreen. F tier. Pitiful. This is a game where smoke is literally in front of your face 24/7. Why the hell would you take something to add more smoke onto the battlefield? I don't get it. Yeah, terrible. You're taking this to troll your team. That's the only thing I could think of. Eagle Strafing Run. This is going to be A tier. Eagle Strafing Run is really solid. It's really good to use close to you because it goes directly in a straight line away from you. So you can really target things that are chasing you. It does heavy, it has heavy armor pin bullets. So it's solid for taking out heavy units or at least damaging heavy units. Yeah, definitely A tier. And it gets a lot of charges too. I think you get like 5 or so. The only reason why it's not S tier is I think if it had a higher fire rate in an area, maybe it'd be a little better. But I think other than that, I think it's solid A tier. Anti-tank emplacement, A tier. This thing is set yourself up because you're going to be killing dropships. You know, this thing is perfect for killing dropships coming in. And if you find a decent spot, you can really just take out all the heavy units that your heart desires. Let's get the exosuits out of the way. Both of them, both exosuits, both A tier. I think the exosuits are amazing. They're really cool. The only reason they're not S in my eyes is they're not very durable. They still have glitches where they get called in and you can't reach them. And I feel like their ammo capacity they come with is just so low. I think if any one of those areas were upgraded in some way, I think that it would be an S tier stratagem. But for that, I think it just has to be A tier. EAT, this is the single use anti-tank rocket. I think it's A tier. I know a lot of people say it's like S tier, but I think for me, it's A tier because it's good. It's good. You can kill tanks with it and kill heavy units. It's just you have to be married to it, right? You have to like fire 1, fire 2, and then call it in every like 50 seconds or 60 seconds or 30 seconds, whatever it is. I think it's 30 seconds actually. I just don't want to have to be calling this thing in every damn 30 seconds, you know? That's too much dedication to it, you know what I mean? So for that, I'll put it A tier. Flamethrower. We're gonna put that one in B tier. Flamethrower is cool. If you're doing a fire build, this is necessary. Comes with a decent amount of ammo. But with that, it's a flamethrower. You got to get kind of close to heavy units. Sometimes you get squashed by them. But yeah, it'll kill heavy units. It'll kill every unit in the game. It's just its limited range. And the fact that you burn yourself and teammates alive happens more often than I like to admit. For that, B tier. Gas grenades. Okay, gas grenades are really good. I'm going to put them in A tier. Gas grenades are everything that the anti-personnel grenades should be. They're very safe to use because if your teammates walk over them, they actually survive and they can stim themselves and survive running over a mine. 1. 2, the gas grenades cover a lot of area when they do explode. And it causes all the gas effects that we know and love where the enemies will attack each other. They become confused. They take more damage. So for that, I think gas grenades are definitely A tier. All right, Gatling Sentry. This guy is A tier. The Gatling Sentry is a really solid sentry. Takes care of itself. Great rate of fire. Its only lacking is that it's not super great against medium units or heavy units, and it also can kind of get destroyed by robots by being shot by rockets. But other than that, it's a really good sentry. Probably one of the best sentries for dealing like large groups of enemies. But for that, we'll put it in A tier. Grenade launcher. We're gonna have to throw this in B tier. Grenade launcher is decent. Doesn't require a backpack. Comes with a decent amount of ammo. It has a decent explosive radius when you fire it. Close bug holes, destroy factories, yada yada yada. It just doesn't have the ability to kill heavy units, and I think that's what holds it back quite a bit. So for that, we're gonna put this guy in B tier. All right, this is the gas guard dog. So we'll call it I think it's called dog breath. This is A tier. This is really solid. I think one of the most solid guard dogs you can get your hands on. Again, we already talked about putting that gas effect on all the enemies around. Super useful. It has really good intelligence now where it'll just it won't accidentally focus on an enemy it's already poisoned. Yeah, really good. Okay, the laser guard dog. The laser guard dog I'm going to put in B tier. It's almost in pitiful though. The laser guard dog is like your first guard dog where you're like, this thing's pretty good. But later on you realize how slow it kills stuff. It's good. It's a good guard dog to just have to put on to forget about because it has infinite ammo. And it will kill like tiny little units. But once you get into more difficult hell dives, it starts to fall off pretty hard. For that, we'll just put it in B tier. All right, the machine gun guard dog. This guy will put in A tier. It's slightly above the laser one. Solid, medium pen, machine gun guard dog. Kills medium units. The only negative is it will aggro patrols, and sometimes it'll get its brain stuck on really killing a heavy unit that it can't really damage, so it'll just waste a bunch of ammo. But other than that, it's a solid A tier. Heavy machine gun. This is in another A tier. It's a heavy pin machine gun. It has really bad recoil, so you definitely need an armor to go with it. Or you have to fire it on the lowest fire rate. And it doesn't come with a lot of ammo for some reason. So for that, I think it's A tier. Maybe if it came with more ammo, I'd put it in S tier. But for that, A tier. All right, heavy machine gun emplacement. This is S tier, I think. This is probably the best emplacement. It can kill all the units, heavy to small. It has great fire rate. It absolutely mows it riddles and mows everything down. It's really fun to use. The only negative I'd say about it is when you want to call it in like a specific spot and you accidentally ricochet it off like a rock or something, and it goes into it bounces and goes into a horrible spot. That's its only negative. Other than that, I think the heavy machine gun's really solid, and I'm surprised more people don't use it. Napalm mines, fire mines, if you will. Fire mines is definitely A tier because it's better than normal mines. Because when it triggers, it has a big AoE of fire, which is just really good at doing damage, killing small guys and medium guys, and doing good damage to heavy guys. So for that, I think just the fact that it covers more area and does more damage to kind of like more stuff, I think the fire mines are definitely A tier. Jetpack, S tier. If you watch my streams at all, you'll know I love the jetpack. I use the jetpack all the time. One of the best utility items in the game. You can get in and get out whenever you need. It's perfect for if you see a jammer, you just jump in, call that hell bomb down, and then jump out. And that jammer is dead. I love the jetpack. It's really fun to use. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I love it. This is the laser cannon. We're going to put this in B tier. Laser cannon is really cool. It does high damage. You can damage heavy units with it. I think that my only negative is the fact that you have to channel it on heavy units for a decent amount of time, and later hell dives. It definitely sometimes you just don't have time to channel a beam on something for a few seconds. But other than that, I think it's pretty solid, and it's one of the most cool. Its cool factor is pretty high. FRV, the fast recon vehicle. This is gonna go in B tier. The FRV would definitely be pitiful before the most recent fixes with it. It handles like crap. It still handles pretty horribly. I think the FRV its cool factor is pretty high to be with your homies driving around, but its practical factor is pretty low. Some maps it's just unusable on. It still handles pretty terribly. The gun on the back is pretty mid, And most of the time, I'm not going to lie to you, if I play with randoms who's driving, they normally just kill me anyways with it by either running me over or flipping it like 5,000 times and killing us all. So for that, I think we just got to leave that bad boy in B tier. All right, the machine gun sentry. We'll put this in B tier as well. It's a low cooldown sentry. If you need supporting fire and you're doing like solo shit, you're lone wolfing out there and you just need some supporting bullets going out, you can probably take this with you and you'll be fine. It has such a low cooldown that it'll be up a lot more often than the others, and it will put down a decent amount of damage and put down units. All right, the machine gun. We will put this guy in B tier as well. Machine gun is just solid overall. It comes with a decent amount of reserve ammo. It has a decent reload speed. It's just like the middle of the road guy. Great for like just mowing small and medium units down if there's just too many of them. But not much to say other than that. Anti-tank mines. We'll just have to. I think I gotta put them in B tier just because they're not super useful sometimes. And you know the amount of time if you throw it at like a factory shredder or something, I mean it has to come down and they have to spread out. It's just like why don't you just shoot rockets at it? You know what I mean? I think the anti-tank mines are cool in theory, but I don't think they're like super useful in like the hectic chaos of battle. All right, the mortar sentry. I'm gonna put this guy in B tier as well. This one might be controversial because I think a lot of people overvalue this thing. The mortar sentry is okay. What I find is it tends to do more damage to your team than the enemy, especially on higher levels where everyone's kind of like fighting their own war. And this thing, you just like you're fighting a bunch of enemies chasing you, and then you just get clapped by your team's mortar. It's like, great, thanks, that helped me. So for that, I just gotta leave it in B tier. I think it's okay. I think the other sentries are better. The 120. I think the 120 is A tier. I think it's A tier. I think it's decent, especially in like higher level dives. You'll find spots where like there's a lot of enemies in a concentrated area, and you throw a 120, usually it cleans it out pretty well. The 380, this is S tier. This is S tier in every single way. I love the 380. You throw into a heavy encampment of them and you just watch the fireworks. You know what? Sometimes I just throw it at my teammate. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it'll get your teammates killed quite often. But if you use it intelligently and you throw it in places where there's no one at, and you just want to clear like a camp of enemies, it's perfect for that. For that, S tier. Orbital airburst. This is pretty solid. I think we're gonna put this guy in B tier. The orbital airburst is solid. The only reason it holds it back is it's not great in later Helldives where there's a lot more medium armor to heavy armor enemies. And it kind of falls off there because it doesn't really deal with them very well. But it is a really solid area denial stratagem. Orbital EMS. I think I'm going to put it in pitiful. Just because it's a single use EMS. It has a short cooldown, so you do have it up like a lot, but I don't know. There's probably some builds that can really take advantage of it, but do you really want to take this? I don't know. I feel like the orbital, if you find a nice little hiding spot for the mortar, EMS mortar, I feel like that's going to be more useful to you than just a normal orbital EMS. Maybe is a decent like, oh shit, I need to get away from the moment, but at the same time, you could take something else to help you with that. So I don't know. Pitiful. Put it in pitiful. Tell me why I'm wrong in the comments. Orbital gas. This is really good. This is going to be A tier. Really good against bugs. Really good against large concentration groups of enemies. Has all the beautiful effects of gas, poison gas that we love and know. So, and it's on a really short cooldown. So for that, definitely A tier. Orbital Gatling barrage. I think I'm going to have to put this guy in... I'm going to put it in A tier. I think the Orbital Gatling Barrage is really good. It has a short cooldown. It does has heavy armor penetration bullets. I think the only thing holding back is maybe the fire rate's a little slow, so sometimes heavy units will just run out of the radius of it. But if you do find a good concentration of them, you just huck this on there and it'll take a good chunk of them out before they can get out of it. So for that, I think A tier. Orbital laser. This guy is S tier. This is probably one of the best stratagems in the game. You could throw it into a base and it'll just kill the whole base by itself and you can just leave. Anything that is like that powerful, that fire and forget skill, that fire and forget ability, yeah, I think it's just immediately S tier. Super good. I would definitely recommend, if you have not used it, using it, trying it out, and seeing how it works. It does have some drawbacks. It only has 3 charges per mission, and it has a pretty long cooldown. I would really like to see them just lower the cooldown a little bit, since it already has the negative of having charges. That cooldown being lower would be really nice. But other than that, it's definitely S tier. Orbital napalm. This is A tier. This is another A tier. This is one of the best looking stratagems in the game. It just looks so good. There's just explosions and fire everywhere. It completely decimates an area. And that's absolutely what you want to see. You want to see an area pounded to sand and dust. And that's how you know that area has freedom. And for that, it's A tier. Orbital strike, B tier. Whatever. You know it. You used it. It's the first stratagem you get. It's fine. Orbital rail cannon. Orbital rail cannon, I'm going to put in pitiful. I think the orbital rail cannon is really bad for what it is. It kills one heavy unit every like 5 minutes. You know, it has a very long cooldown. I mean, you can call in like probably like 4 commandos in the time that you killed something with that. I just don't understand why the cooldown is so damn high. The cooldown should be so much lower, but yet it's not. And for that, I can't justify it. It doesn't make any sense. There's so much other stratagems out there that you can take care of heavy units with, multiple heavy units, and then you got this rail cannon thing that costs like 5 minutes per one damn kill. And sometimes it doesn't even kill the heavy. Yeah, the orbital rail cannon needs a complete rework or buff or something, I think, before it becomes useful again. So for that, pitiful. Orbital smoke screen. Man, you know how I feel about the smoke. Worthless, garbage, trash. All right, orbital walking barrage. This is really good. I can't tell if it's S tier or A tier. It's like right in between, in my opinion. I'm going to put it in A tier. I think the orbital walking barrage is incredible. You can actually use it in an effective way. You can tell your teammates, hey, I'm throwing an orbital walking barrage. Don't stand in this area, and they'll avoid it. And it works really well like that. I think it's definitely closer to definitely closer to S than I can put it, but I just don't think it quite reaches S because it does have a really long cooldown, and it does have big gaps as it moves, and sometimes you throw it and you're like, okay, it's definitely gonna hit that, and it still misses it. So that would be my only thing. If they could close the gaps between the shots, and maybe, or just give it a shorter cooldown, one of those two things would be really nice. Portable hell bomb. This is S tier. This is one of the most fun items in the game right now. It is so exhilarating to arm a hell bomb on your back, run in, and either, you know, go down for freedom, or try to like make a huge play where you drop it off your back and then try to get away as fast as possible before it detonates. I think it adds like a really fun adrenaline rush to the game, and I think it's incredible. S tier. Quasar cannon. This is S tier. It's a rechargeable anti-tank weapon, super useful to have. I think the only negative is I think it does have a pretty long cooldown to call in, but man, the Quasar cannon is solid pretty much against any race of evil alien scum, and it doesn't take a backpack, so you still have a free backpack slot to work with that. So Quasar, S tier, the king. Railgun. I'm going to put the railgun in pitiful. I think the railgun got messed around with too much, and now I think the railgun is pretty much doesn't have a good leg to stand on. It has an overcharge ability that does good damage, but you really have to commit to that specific playstyle. There's no other options. I don't know. It's just not as cool anymore. In fact, you have to reload every shot. I'd like to see them restore it to its former glory. Honestly, before it becomes useful again, especially with the options you have now. I just don't think it's worth taking right now. Recoilless. This is going to be definitely an A tier. Recoilless is great anti-tank, does massive damage to any heavy units, kills all tanks, all that stuff. The only negative is its reload speed is really slow, and you have to stop moving with it. So, Airburst rocket launcher. We're gonna put this in B tier. This is a pretty fun item to use. I think its fun factor is higher than its usefulness. It kills. It has like a burst mode where it just blows up. It has cluster bombs and it kills a bunch of units around where you shoot, and it's really fun to use. It's just not super useful against like heavies and stuff like that. So for that, I gotta kind of put it in B tier. Rocket Sentry. Rocket Sentry's S tier. Rocket Sentry is something you do have to babysit. It won't defend itself very well, but it will take out drop ships. It'll take out heavies. It does a lot of damage to heavy units. It can hold down an area of a lot of medium and heavy units. It just requires you to babysit it a little bit. Directional Shield. I'm going to put this in B tier. Its cool factor is really high. Like, it's really cool. I just don't know how it's useful. If you want to use it with a gun, you have to use an SMG, and the SMGs are kind of And it is a good support weapon if you want to like support some teammates or even protect a turret. You can do that. You can stand next to it with your shield, block laser, bullet fire and laser fire. I just don't know how large of an impact you can make with it. That's all. But its cool factor is really high. All right, personal shield generator. We're gonna put this one in S tier. I think if you have a build where you have a free backpack slot, I think this or like the machine gun guard dog or the gas dog is really solid. It'll protect you from bombs. It'll protect you from bullets. Its recharge rate is really quick when it gets destroyed. Personal shield generator, just a solid, like probably one of the best backpacks you can get. So yeah, for that, S tier. Okay, shield generator relay. This is the big AoE that covers an area and protects your whole team. This one's A tier. This is one of the best defensive stratagems in the game. It's probably the best defensive stratagem in the game, honestly, with you. It just kind of useless against bugs because it protects against projectiles and things, but enemies still can enter it. So if you have a bunch of bugs dashing and jumping on you, they're just going to jump right through it. But other than bugs, it's really solid to protect your team. It gives your team a good breath of fresh air while they're getting swarmed by bots and illuminates. So for that, I think it's definitely an A tier defense. All right, the spear. The spear is one of the most memed on stratagems in the game, easily. It is a weird anti-tank weapon because its effectiveness feels kind of random. I think the way it works is there's like a sweet spot where you're standing at a certain distance where it goes up and then lands and hits it. But if you're outside of this like sweet spot distance, it kind of flubs. Like sometimes if you're too close, it just fires and goes away forever. Sometimes if you're too far too, I've seen it just fires and it doesn't even like hit the enemy. And I'm not sure what that's about. So the spear definitely deserves the memes. It is really cool. It is useful. It just has the quirks with it, makes it kind of like people don't want the headache, so they just pick other stuff. But I think it's not pitiful. All right, the Wasp. I think the Wasp is also B tier. I think the Wasp is kind of like the spear in a lot of ways because the Wasp is really good at killing like medium units and pretty decent at killing heavy units. But when you fire it, for some reason, rockets will just like go directly right or left. And it's like, bro, when you fire a rocket out of tube, it goes straight, right? That's just generally how stuff works. So I don't know why these things have to peel off right and left really hard, and sometimes they hit walls next to you. But other than that, its cool factor is really high. It's really fun to fire a bunch of little cluster rockets and just see them hone in and blow something up. So definitely B tier. All right, the Stalwart. The Stalwart is going to be B tier. The Stalwart is okay. It comes with a lot of ammo, fast reload speed, a lot of bullets. It's basically, if you hate all the primaries in the game and you want a light machine gun primary, this is what you pick. It's a Stalwart. I wish it doesn't have medium armor pins, so it's not going to be useful against heavies and stuff like that. But it is really good at just mowing down small enemies and keeping them off of you. All right, the Sterilizer. This is going to sound like I'm a hypocrite, but I think this thing is actually F tier. The reason is you have you have so many better options to deploy poisonous gas than taking up a stratagem weapon slot. You have gas grenades, which are incredible. you have the guard dog, the gas guard dog, and then you have the orbital gas. Those are all really useful and on short cooldowns. Then you have the sterilizer, which takes up a weapon slot. It does what they do, which poisonous gas is really strong right now, but I don't really see the point of that. Why don't you just take grenades and then use something else? It just doesn't, for me, it just doesn't have a place in the loadout. But if you are really into like the poison gas theme, it is definitely going to fit your theme if you're kind of like into that play style. But I think the options for everyone else are much better to get poisonous gas on the battlefield than just wasting a slot like this for the weapon slot for the sterilizer. All right, supply pack. Not much needs to be said here. S tier, you basically just get tons more ammo, and it pairs well with machine guns and stuff. What else needs to be said? Pairs well with the anti-material rifle too. So yeah, definitely S tier. All right, the last stratagem, the Tesla Tower. And this guy is definitely going in F tier. This thing sucks. I hate this thing. This is like the worst sentry in the game by a mile. It kills your teammates like no other. It's kind of hard to see in like the chaos of battle because it's just a little stick sticking out of the ground. It doesn't do great damage against heavies at all. It has like no health, so it just gets killed immediately when it's swarm. And what it does is it kind of like arcs lightning with decent damage, and that's about it. I think the Tesla Tower is like a meme thing, and I think if you want to kill your teammates, it's one of the best things to just hide around a corner. So when they come around the corner, they just get zapped immediately. So for that bad boy goes in pitiful. Oh my goodness. If you made it this far, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate you. Let me know what you think of my tier list in the comments, please. Please subscribe if you can. I do appreciate it. And I hope you have a good one. See ya.